wood knock to the east, another one, 5 wood knocks surrounding him. So he texted me, and I'm like, why is this kid texting me? We're hunting. And he's like, Mom, he goes, I'm surrounded by him. So I said, just head down towards me, and I met with him in our little stand, and we just sat, and you're saying, what are we going to do now? But we didn't hear anything after that. Later that night, about 8 p.m., my friend was sitting in his living room watching TV, and he had 2 dogs at the time, and the dogs went nuts. So he has a big sliding glass door. He slid it open, and he heard them breaking the trees, howling, screaming. He closed the door really fast, put a sheet over it or a blanket, and, you know, he was really scared. So that was 2 things in one day at his property. So now he put up surveillance cameras around his property, so we'll see what happens. But I could go on and on. I mean, there are so many stories. In a little bit, I guess right now I'm basically going to tell you about some new findings that we have encountered at the habitation site, as well as at the farm that we've been investigating for about 2 years now. So I'm basically wanting to educate the public, and especially the residents of the Hudson Valley, about the existence of Sasquatch in our area. And I started out about 3 years ago, starting to just be inquisitive about these creatures. I had my own encounter back in the late 60s on Stissing Mountain when I was a teenager, and I was camping, and I was alone, and it was getting dark, and I was, you know, okay, I'm not scared. I heard this owl, and I thought, okay, it's just an owl, and it was really close to my tent. So I said, all right, you know, nothing to worry about. And a few minutes later, I heard the most god-awful sound of my life. That was like a howl and a scream, and it was so intense that I froze. I couldn't move. I was in shock. I didn't know what to do. So I waited, I don't know even how long I was there, and then I just bolted and ran and got into the house, and I never forgot this. So I didn't think too much about it. I still continued to hunt and fish and camp, and, you know, that was my lifestyle, riding horses and whatever. And it wasn't until 3 years ago, when I started watching Finding Bigfoot, that I discovered that, yeah, these things are around. I mean, people are seeing them, and there's maps, and they're all over the country as well as the world. So I decided to go online and Google Bigfoot sightings in Dutchess County, and the first thing that popped up was a Bigfoot sighting in 1986 on Lake Road in Pine Plains, which is the road we lived on. So that did it. So then it just got my interest, and 3 years later, I'm out in the field, which is what I enjoy the most, and finding tracks, hair samples, kills by the Bigfoot. You know, we found deer carcasses with their necks strangled. We found muskrat, all kinds of, you know, game that have been killed and their internal organs removed. We've gotten reports from farmers that have, you know, lost cows, calves, horses being attacked. I don't know that all of them were by Bigfoot, but a majority of them were, we believe. So I'm not saying that, you know, you have to be fearful. So far, I haven't heard of anyone being harmed in this area, but there are reports where if you do encounter one in the woods, don't look it directly in the eyes, and just, you know, kind of put your head down and just walk away or run or whatever. But so I'm going to start telling you about some local encounters, some within 2 miles of here. and then I'll get to the more recent stuff. I guess we'll go with a place that most of you that live in this town are familiar with, which is the Rec Park, which is on Apple Ring Road in Red Hook. And there's a stream that goes through and a bit of a swampy area. And I got a report of 2 fishermen in 1986 that were walking along that trail, going fishing, and encountered a huge blonde Sasquatch that came crashing out of the woods, breaking branches, and scared these guys half to death. So they just dropped their poles, ran, never, went back there. They were afraid to go anywhere in the woods for quite a while after that. Then we do have a report recently. I live on the Sawkill Creek, which is only maybe 3 miles from here, and that actually feeds through to the Rec Park and then into the Hudson River. And I had 3 fishermen on our bridge on last Friday night. They said that 2 o'clock in the morning, they were fishing for bullheads, and at 2 o'clock in the morning, they saw across the pond, there's like a peninsula. They saw this light, a blue light, going up into the sky, and then they heard like some crashing and popping sounds. So they had a spotlight, and they shined it across the pond, and they saw the silhouette of this huge creature, and they saw the green eye shine of it. And they heard some vocalizations as well. So they reported that to me, which, was pretty close to my home, so I don't know if they know I'm looking for them, so now they're going to come looking for me, I think. But we also have been investigating a habituation site, and the homeowner bought the property, put the house up in, I believe it was 2007. And one night, he heard some noise outside, and he had just dug a pond. And so he had this big piece of equipment, like a backhoe or whatever, out in his yard. And he stepped out on his porch, and he saw this enormous black creature standing on 2 legs, just standing there staring at him. And he was from the city. He didn't know what it could have been. He thought it was a bear, but eventually, as he found out, he has a family of Sasquatch residing in his area of his property. So we've been doing a lot of investigation there, as some of you know, and recently, like the past couple of months, the activity has increased because we started to put out trail cameras, and at one point we had 5 of them out. And we have a feeding area where the homeowner feeds them every night. He gives them fruit and candy and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and every morning when he goes back out to check on them, the food is gone. Sometimes he'll find the baggies like sliced open, very neatly sliced, not chewed or anything. And so since we took the trail cams down, because the Sasquatch know what a camera is, they know what a gun is, they don't like either one, and so we decided, look, this isn't working. We've got thousands of pictures from the trail cams with nothing on them except, something triggered them, but we don't have any photographs of these creatures. So we took them down probably in February, I think, and ever since we took them down, the poor man has had, sometimes he doesn't sleep at night because they're knocking on the side of his house, they're scratching on his screens, they climb on his porch. He actually saw one looking in his window about a month and a half ago. He just saw the side of its face, and it was a white one. And we happen to have a picture, which John will show you later, that we cropped and enlarged. And you can see this white face exactly the way the homeowner described it. It's just been, you know, I mean, if it was me, I would think about probably moving, or, you know, I mean, I don't mind going to look for them, but to have them, like, be around on his roof, they throw rocks at him. When he's driving the tractor, they don't like it, and especially when he goes down to the area where they are, they don't like that. So they don't hit him with the rocks, but they just let him know that they're there. And as well as we've all been out there and we've heard vocalizations. There's been trees pushed over, whistling, tracks. We've cast tracks from there. There's just so much evidence that we have to show you that even if you're skeptical, I would say, come with me one day or night and you won't be skeptical anymore. So it's just a fascinating subject, and I just can't get enough of it. And I see that a lot of familiar faces here that I think are getting the way I am, which I feel I'm obsessed. But it's just a mystery, and, you know, I don't know that we'll solve it, but I can sure, you know, prove a lot of things to a lot of people. So what I'm going to do now is pass around some photographs that we've taken. And this one was taken with a Primos trail cam by the homeowner. And it's enlarged, so it's not, you know, the best quality. It's pixelated. But this is a juvenile. We believe it's a female. And we named her Baby. And we'll pass that pictures around, and you'll see the uncropped version of her in the tree on that one.
These are a series of photographs here that lead up to